relates to the Sunshine Law. And with the changes, we will need to follow the following process. So what I am going to do is announce the name of the participants in the meeting. And if it is a remote connection, each person is going to announce if there's anyone else at the location present with them. Secondly, during executive session, we are going to have to, again, name the authorized participants. The participant must confirm that there are no other people present in the room. And the chair will need to announce that only authorized persons are connected. I need to make that announcement. The other thing is, if there is not a unanimous vote, we are going to have to take a separate vote, and each person is going to have to give their position on, on the vote. I think the last item, which you need to know, the governor has postponed or suspended this requirement until February 28th, but there will be a requirement to have at least one in-person meeting location. So everybody can connect remotely, but there needs to be one in-person meeting location for anyone that would like to attend. I don't know, just see if I missed anything else.
Nope, I think that covers it. Thank you.
Okay, so present at this afternoon's meeting is myself, Roberta Chu, Diana Vandekar, Andy Adamson, Billy Bergen, Gregory Chun, Kaiu Kimura from the Center of Maunakea Strategy, and taking minutes is Carrie Klein, also from CMS. And I am in a remote location. There is no one else in the room. So Diana, can you announce if anyone else is in the room?
I'm here and I'm the only person in this room.
Okay, and Andy?
I'm here, and but there is somebody else in the room. My partner is here. So does she need to leave?
No, I think you just need to give us the name.
The name is Turandot Adamson.
Okay. And Billy?
I am alone in the room.
Okay, and Greg?
I am alone in the room.
Okay, and I see that Chancellor Irwin has just joined us as an ex officio member. So I just announced the changes to the Sunshine Law. And one of the requirements is if you are calling in remotely, you need to disclose if there's anyone else in the room with you.
I am also alone in my room.
Okay, thank you. And Kaiu, if you could, you're not a member of the board, but since you are participating, could you just let us know if you're alone or if there's anyone else in your room?
Yeah, aloha. I'm the only one in the room.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to leave anybody else. So Carrie, can you let me know if you're alone?
Yes, I'm alone. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we've met the requirement for the new Sunshine Law. I will next move to public comments. So Carrie, you mentioned there were 3 people that would be presenting testimony.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's correct. So, Carrie, we can let them in one at a time in the order that they signed up.
Okay. All right, the first person we have is Reverend Kalani Souza. And he'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Reverend Souza, can you hear us?
Well, we can't hear him. His microphone is muted.
Okay.
Oh,
There we go.
we can hear you. Thank you. Do you want to give your testimony, Reverend Souza?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I'm having some trouble with the Gib. So I understand we're tired of angry Hawaiians and the illegality you tune out. You believe consequences will never fall on you because so far they never have. But things are changing, and I quote The Guardian from an article today. The next U.S. Civil War is already here. We just refuse to see it. The right has recognized that the system is in collapse, and it has a plan. Violence in solidarity with treasonous far-right factions. I know you don't believe you're accountable, but the power structure that has sheltered you may soon be unable to do so. Well-respected sources support my concerns. Hawaii has changed. The desire of American business feigning national security under banners of manifest destiny. However, ignorance of the law is not justifiable excuse. Injustice is reprehensible to say the least, despicable, genocidal at worst. And now, ecocide is on the table. The UN World Water Law is being discussed while we struggle for civilian rule over military command as Red Hill continues to leak with no budgetary or congressional responsibility in sight. Trust between trustees and executors is gone. A victim of domestic abuse, a symptom, an ongoing pandemic undermining global economy. We rattle sabers, a strategy for national economic solvency, war. What is brewing along the South China Sea between the UK police states? Coupling with Ukraine and Russia, we have the making of a global world war, playing at economic strategy. Regarding science, hungry pockets willing to feed insatiable academic curiosity, intellectual property rights as ground cover for military space force budgets. A ground-based astronomical observation facility all but rendered obsolete by the launching of the James Webb Telescope just last week. America is clamoring for a civil war. How would this affect Hawaii? How did it historically impact economy and supply chain? U.S. politics, combination show business, economic self-interest, talk show news broadcasts. One agreement, anger. We are angry, divided, and inconsolable. The job of governing, impossible. Lines are being blurred. Economic inequality, perceived victimhood, distrust permeates all levels of participation. Generals speaking out of concern for their oath to serve. An oath ignored by members of Congress. I quote the Business Insider. Retired U.S. Army generals warn of insurrection, pledge loyalty to a triumphant and Trumpian loser. I quote in Washington Post, as we approach the first anniversary of the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, we, all of us former senior military officials, are increasingly concerned about the potential for lethal chaos, end quote. I
Sorry, it's been
suggest this
3
body,
minutes.
tasked by the government, not ignore its responsibility to the people, the stewardship, the legacy of preserving our island home. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Hanale Fergerstrom.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Anybody?
I can hear you. Yes,
Yes.
we can
Oh,
hear
in the
you.
video, I guess. Let's see. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, aloha. I'm Hanali Fergstrom. I'm the spokesperson for Nakupuna Moko Keawe. One of the first things I want to talk about is this notice. You sent out a notice dated December 30th, and you're calling for the meeting on the 4th. That's not even 1 week. How are we supposed to be able to know this? It's very important. Notice is a very important part of this, of the interactions between the people and your organization. If you're not giving proper notice, who's supposed to know that this is even happening? That's probably why you only have 3 testifiers, of which I informed all of them. So I don't know what you're going to do about that, but quite frankly, this does not make actual sense that we're having a meeting on this date. It's not even 7 days from the date of the notice as you sent it out. I got mine yesterday. Therefore, nobody else got it. It was me who put everybody in line as far as I could. So you need to work on figuring out how you're going to get this done better, because notice is a very important part of hearings. Okay, so did you understand what I said? Your notice came out December 30th. Okay, today is January 4th. That's not even 7 days.
So,
I believe we have 10 days notice.
Hanalei,
Even if it was 7. I'm
as
sorry?
a point of clarification, we did meet the legal requirement in terms of the timing of our notice.
And how do you see that? If the notice came out December 30th, today's the 4th, how did you meet it?
That is the legal requirement.
What, 4 days? What is the legal requirement, Craig?
5 days. It is 5 days.
5 days. Okay. So, okay, I'll give you that. I think you're wrong, but I'll give you that for the moment. Okay, secondly, I am very confused who I'm speaking with. I mean, I know that you're the Maunakea Management Board, but there seems to be 2 different things happening at the same time, and I'm confused as which one is the prominent or the dominant one. There's this whole committee, the working group that's been set up to talk about the governance on the mountain, other than the University of Hawaii, that's moving full forward. And then we have you that has your own plans, like there was no legislative study going on about how to replace you. I don't know how to deal with this. Any suggestions that might help clarify things?
Chair, can I respond?
Yes, you may.
So at this time, we continue to, oh, I don't know what happened. Carrie, you can let him back in.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So,
Adrian's-
Craig, you're saying that it was 5 days notice?
It's 6 days actually posted on the web.
It's okay, 6 days notice, including the weekend, or is it 6 working day notice?
Jesse, would you like to clarify that, please?
Yeah, it's 6 days, including weekends. That's the sunshine law.
Okay. Well, you guys are gonna just make it harder and harder and harder for people to participate. Okay, anyway, again, there's this controversy going on between who's the rightful authority that we're talking to? Because there's a whole nother group of people that's part of the working group that is putting out documents also. That's supposed to be replacing the University of Hawaii. And of course, the University of Hawaii is continuing along like that doesn't even, that's irrelative. So pardon me if I'm not close enough to you to understand really what's going on. But from the outside, I'm very confused as who I'm talking to. We have a draft plan on one side, and then we have this whole working group thing on the other side that seems to contradict each other. Somebody want to clarify that?
Yeah, I'll clarify it, Hank. But before I do, Hank, I don't know if this is the intention of your testimony, but we're eating up your 3 minutes. So if this is what you intended, fine, I can respond, but otherwise, not sure what you wanted to speak to regarding the management plan. Regarding this board, we are the board that has been put in place and is still in place per the 2000 master plan. And until such time that changes, we will continue to do our work, as will the university in its current role as steward of the Mauna. There's no plans to alter that. So I'm not sure who you would be talking to if the working group was completed their work, but they haven't completed their work. So we are the entity responsible for advising the university on management of the Mauna.
Okay, then, so if correct me if I'm wrong, in reading the agenda pretty much just said the same thing that the mail out said, with a little bit of note to the draft master plan. Are we speaking about the draft master plan?
The agenda for tonight is concerning the comprehensive management plan, not the draft master plan.
Is the comprehensive management plan on the website?
It is on the website, yes. The existing one.
Okay. I'm going to cut it here because again, I'm still very, very confused as to what's going on here. This is not making a whole lot of sense. I really think that you guys should think about this 6-day notice and not include weekends, because it's pretty tricky to throw something out the day before Christmas and then 2 days later have a meeting. Anyway, that's the way, that seems to be your style. You don't seem to have any problems with it. But you don't seem to be reaching very many people either. Am I correct on that? You have 3 testifiers. How much reach did you actually reach? That's something that you need to understand, because you're not hitting the mark. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I just think this is horse manure. And when you talk about on your agenda, it says the draft master plan. It does not say the comprehensive master plan. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure which one we're talking about.
The 3 minutes is up.
Okay. Thank you for putting up with me. I guess I have to put up with you too, but let's get it together, guys. We've got to figure out who's talking and who we're supposed to be listening to and what plan we're supposed to be looking at. Because on your sheet saying the agenda, it says draft master plan. It does not say comprehensive master plan. You can go look it up yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's the draft comprehensive management plan.
We're looking at the agenda right now.
Yeah.
Again, we don't sit in your seats. We don't sit in the seats where this is an everyday, all day thing with you folks. Okay, we're the outside. We're trying to come in and make some kind of comments as to what's going on to show that we want to participate. It doesn't help if you guys, I mean, if you don't want to hear from us, just tell us to fuck off and don't try to join your meeting. You know what I mean? Because that's what it feels like. And that's a bad place for you to be in, where we feel like you're dissing us. Okay, thank you for my time. Happy New Year, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Susan Rosier, Rosier. I don't see her in the attendees. If you're in the attendees, please raise your hand. Susan Rosier, Rosier. Okay, Chair, I don't see her there, so if she comes on later, I'll let you know. She's the last one of the three.
All right, thank you very much, Carrie. We will move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the December 7th meeting. Are there any changes or comments to the minutes that were circulated? Hi, Julie.
None for me.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's any changes. If no changes, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Billy. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a unanimous vote to approve the minutes as presented. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Kahukumona Report. I'm not sure, Greg, if you're gonna talk about that as well.
Kahukumona, I have nothing to report. At their last meeting, we discussed and reviewed some projects that were presented just for information purposes only, and then discuss more about Kahukumona membership. But there was nothing of substance that the group decided on. So they are meeting this week, Thursday, and so hopefully we'll have more to report at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to move into your executive director's report?
Sure, thank you. But before we do that, Chair, I guess as a matter of procedure, we should advise Julie that she needs to let us know if anybody else is in the room with her.
Yes, that's right. So Julie, I just went over early in the beginning of the meeting, the new sunshine law changes. And so what I will do every meeting is announce the names of the participants. Any participant that is calling in remotely needs to announce if there is anyone at the location, you know, in the room with you. So for the rest of us, we all are by ourselves. Andy has his wife with him. And so we just need to know if you're alone or if you have anybody in the room.
I'm alone. No one's in the room.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me, Greg.
Sure. Okay, then moving on, Executive Director's Report. I really just have one item that I wanted to report on tonight, and that is the university's response to the Maunakea Working Group draft report that was issued several weeks ago. As you know, this afternoon was the submittal deadline for public comments, and the university submitted its comments, a copy of which was provided to you just for your information. I'm not clear yet on exactly how the committee is going to, or the working group is going to be reviewing or documenting what has been submitted. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to at least share the high points of the university's response that we prepared. There are 5 major topics that we organized our response around. The first topic has to do with the cultural foundation vis-a-vis the Kanawai principles that were laid out in the Maunakea Working Group's draft report, proposing that framework as the foundation for a management regime and a management plan. We wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate, express our appreciation for the holistic and integrated approach of the framework and the Kanawai principles that are described in the report. We do believe at the Center for Maunakea Stewardship that those principles elucidated in the report provide a nice foundation and serve as guiding principles to land use and management decisions as guiding framework, if you will, as a guiding framework. Without that kind of longer term view of things, I think we would be acting in a short-sighted manner in terms of our management. So we take quite a bit of time to express not on our appreciation, but our views on how important those Kanawai principles that are laid out in the report really are. We have some ideas. I have some ideas on how to integrate those more fully into our planning and operations. But I think taken in whole, if you look at our current and updated master plan, our management plans, as well as our administrative rules, a lot of the principles are reflected across those documents in demonstrating a balanced and integrated, holistic way of thinking about our responsibilities on the mountain. The second item that we focused on was to speak directly to what we see as the risks to the future of astronomy on Mauna Kea as presented by the report, or as presented through the recommendations of the report. Our response, elucidates the specifics of that, our concerns, but I think it is fair to say that the report lays out a vision that at some point in time in the future, astronomy certainly goes away, and if not most, if not all of sort of human activity at the summit regions. We believe that astronomy is a long-held state policy. Astronomy on Mauna Kea is a long-held state policy, and that that determination about the future of astronomy is really a policy discussion that requires much broader input from a range of stakeholders. So we think that the report and the recommendations there put astronomy at risk and argue for a much larger conversation about that statewide policy and the future of astronomy on Mauna Kea. The third point that we focus on kind of cuts across a number of issues, but basically has to do with the complexities and costs of managing access to public lands. We believe that the report doesn't fully capture the complexities of what's involved in managing public lands, where the public has multiple values that they attribute to Mauna Kea and that are important to them. In addition, there are a number of jurisdictions, as we have discussed in other meetings, involved in managing different parts of Mauna Kea. And the proposal adds to the complexity of managing access by proposing to take on even more lands under the jurisdiction of a new governing entity. Again, we think that those costs and the complexities of taking that on have not been fully evaluated. The fourth item has to do with a number of various legal, administrative, and funding issues that are not adequately addressed in the report, and that collectively present a number of risks or elevate a number of risks for the implementation of the proposal itself. Again, concerns over the constitution and distribution or constitution of the membership of the proposed board of directors of the new governing entity, we think could raise some constitutional concerns, particularly when you're talking about a state agency that controls state lands and resources. Again, we don't think that the report accounts for the complexity of the various jurisdictions already operating on Mauna Kea and how that would be addressed and dealt with. The lack of representation of astronomy and UH on the governing board is also problematic and creates its own set of governance and funding problems. And then again, just the complexities of implementing, successfully implementing all of the things that would need to be done to institute a new governing entity. We do not think the proposed 3-year timeline is adequate. We are talking about enabling legislation that would have to be passed in both bodies of the legislature. We're talking about funding issues that would have to be resolved. A viable business plan would have to be developed. We're talking about land transfers, coordination of existing coordination with existing jurisdictions and administrative rules, and a number of other legal type issues, and just sort of the complexities of starting up a new entity. For those who have been part of Maunakea Management Board or around Maunakea Management Board from the beginning, I think you know that startup was not an overnight thing. It took years to get an entity up and running. And that itself presents additional risks to the future of astronomy. Lastly, we talk about our commitment to and ability to successfully steward Mauna Kea. We believe that that has been demonstrated over time. We point to where we think inadequate attention to the progress even made in our management and stewardship, even noted in the state auditor report and even in the independent evaluation conducted by the DLNR of our implementation of the comprehensive management plan, where those reports themselves point out the progress that we have made. And of course, we've been recognized by the community for some of that work over the years as well. We think that the criticism of mismanagement, which is often levied against the university, and seemingly the basis for this report is inaccurate, and it derives from perceptions and feelings of those who would like to not see astronomy on Mauna Kea going forward. So those are the 5 areas that we point to and discuss. We have, as you know, a cover letter that briefly summarizes these points, and then an attachment that goes into more detail. We have reached out. I have personally reached out to various of our elected officials, requesting time to discuss our response. I'm waiting to hear back from them. Also had a conversation with Governor Ige this afternoon about our response as well. So I know that there is interest in people wanting to understand sort of the rationale and the reasoning behind what we have laid out in the submittal that we provided to the working group. Look forward to discussing it with any working group members or Chair Nakashima or others. And look forward to, your folks' input as well. But just wanted to take this opportunity, Chair, to review the report in general. And I know that we will have other opportunities to discuss it as well, but I can take initial questions if there are any at this time.
Not all I want to say, but what I do want to say, Greg, is I know you spent a lot of time. I thought the cover letter was very well stated, and it included a lot of supporting documentation. And I agree with the comments and that were included in that letter. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't take credit. I was the drafter of the initial draft, but there are many eyes and ears and hands that touch this thing. So it is really a reflection of the university's response.
Well, yeah, it looked like it obviously had been really edited for, as accurate position as possible. So yeah, I realize that a lot of work has been put into it, but I know that you had to start with the basis. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, that concludes my report for tonight. I wanted to keep it short so that we could spend time with Kaiu on the management plan item.
All right, so why don't we move into the next item, number 6, the information discussion on the draft comprehensive management plan.
So I know some of you know Kaiu Kimura, but if you don't, let me introduce her. Kaiu is our director of the Imiloa Astronomy and Science Center, and has been for several years. Under her direction, Imiloa has really expanded, I think, from its original mission, and really has started to touch the community in a variety of different ways through their educational programming, whether that be family-based programming, keiki programming, in-school programming, etc. A lot of what they do is much more than just running the astronomy center there and all of the interpretive exhibits in Hilo. Kaiu is part of our management collaborative, along with Doug Simons from IFA and Bonnie, Chancellor Irwin, that collectively we meet regularly and discuss various items about our collective responsibilities to Mauna Kea. As you may know, I don't believe folks here had a chance to actually sit in, but on December 16th at the Board of Regents special meeting where they received and considered the Mauna Kea Permitted Interaction Group's report and recommendations on the master plan. Doug Simons, Kaiu Kimura, and myself did a comprehensive overview of all of the things that we are collectively responsible for and working on regarding our management of Mauna Kea. One of the items at our last Mauna Kea Management Board meeting that we discussed was the need in the next several meetings to roll up our sleeves and really start to get into discussing the comprehensive management plan. It's time for us to move on from the master plan and start focusing on the update it's needed for the comprehensive management plan. One section or one aspect of the management plan has to do with education and outreach activities. And I thought that prior to us in our future meetings getting into discussions around the CMP, it might be helpful for Kai'u to provide her presentation that she did to the regents that on December 16th on the educational activities that she and Lisa Spain and their team are leading up on behalf of CMS. They are not responsible for all of education and outreach that occurs. IFA, CMS, and EMILA all have pieces of that, along with the individual observatories. But as you know, per the Board of Regents resolutions, EMILA was tasked with working on a couple of very specific items regarding our educational programming. And I thought it would be useful for this group to be briefed by Kai'u on that work, particularly since at our last Maunakea Management Board meeting, we talked about starting our focus on the CMP by focusing first on education and outreach, that whole section. So this is kind of a precursor and foundation laying for that discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kai'u, who has a presentation that she will review for us, and then we can open it up for discussion.
Mahalo nui, Greg. Mahalo nui ya oko apau e ko ka papala ka'i ko Maunakea Management Board. Thank you all for having this time for me to come and share and provide updates as to what we've been working on, specifically EMILA's role in education and outreach as it relates to the CMP, as well as the collaboration that's been happening amongst us, like Greg had mentioned in the intro to this section. So if you'll give me a moment, I'm going to share screen. So that you can see my presentation. Okay, can you all see that, my slide, Maunakea Orientation Brief? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, hi, aloha nui. Before I kind of get started on updating you where we're at with orientation and other educational and outreach planning, I just wanted to remind everyone of EMILA's purpose and mission, which really is we're a place of lifelong learning, bringing the power of Hawaii's cultural traditions, our legacy of exploration, and the wonders of astronomy, and really science writ large, where all of that comes together to hopefully provide inspirational educational opportunities and hope for future generations. So we are going to be 16 this year in February, and since then we've served well over 1 million people, both within our facility and outside of our facility through our outreach programs, partnering with numerous community organizations, friends, and families to deliver educational experiences that really speak to Mauna Kea, our community, our place here in Hawaii, from the deep depths of the oceans to the far outer reaches of our universe as we know it. So I wanted to share that, and EMILA was created out of the master plan, UH's master plan in 2000. It was included in the plan in no small part due to a lot of the feedback that was garnered from the community input process. So from its inception, EMILA was a project and an effort to bring community together, collaborate together with UH and numerous community partners, and as a result of that collaboration. And as a member of that original team that worked on the project, I know firsthand that it was not an easy process to plan for and build the center, but I am proud and confident in saying that today it continues to operate from a fundamentally foundational perspective of the importance of serving our community and working with our community. And I want to recognize, right, the many members of our Hawaiian community, our local community, and global community that has supported this mission and this effort in developing and implementing our programs, as well as advocating for what I believe is at the core of EMILA's mission, which is to normalize or renormalize perhaps our Moliola or our life force that is found nowhere else but here in Hawaii, that really Mauna Kea embodies and represents to perpetuate a Native Hawaiian legacy of exploration and innovation in order to enable and empower our community to determine positive change. So at the foundation of all the programs that we do, that is what I think drives and ignites the passion of our staff and of our partners to deliver these on our mission. So with that said, the Board of Regents passed a resolution and an updated version of that resolution with regards to Maunakea stewardship, and specifically as it relates to Imiloa, requiring Imiloa to develop and implement a suite of educational programs regarding Mauna Kea, including but not limited to Native Hawaiian culture, history, environmental and biological considerations, designed for the tour operators, employees working at the mid-level facility and summit region, contractors, recreational users, scientists, observatory workers, and visitors alike, as required by the CMP. And subsequent to the or actually I should say preceding the resolution, it was put into executive policy, delegating responsibility to Imiloa for the orientation program. In addition to the required mandate put forth by the Board of Regents and executive policy, Imiloa has been working with staff of MKSS, IFA, and CMS to kind of map out and put together a program outline where we collectively would work on programs delivered at the mid-level facility that would focus in specifically on audience groups that include our UH and HCC student and faculty programs. That would also include, in the third column, high-touch intensive educational programs guided by staff and community partners. High-touch meaning deep diving, great depth educational opportunities for our local students, both within the university system as well as outside of the university system in DOE, charter, private, community organizations that are looking to have access to that mid-level facility for educational purposes that provide an environment to deep dive into other, whether study, research, ceremony, practice, etc. And then, of course, the mid-level facility providing a space for local public, as well as just general public, which is inclusive of the tourist population, to stop and have an educational experience, to better acclimate both physically and, I guess, emotionally and mentally and spiritually even, to the significance of Mauna Kea. So enhancing the educational experience that's offered through the mid-level facility. So we started working on this draft matrix, I think beginning in 2019. And then, you know, with COVID closures of the mid-level facility, these programs have not been operating, just given, you know, COVID impact measures, but we are continuing to talk about this kind of comprehensive educational programs that we could collectively offer. And again, in partnership with other UH departments and community partners to enhance educational experiences there at mid-level. So I wanted to share that with you as well, because yes, we are mandated to work on the orientation. However, we also are working collectively on a more comprehensive educational plan. But specifically going back to the Mauna Kea orientation, I wanted to just give you a brief overview of the components that we've been busy putting together at Imiloa. Taking what formerly known as the Office of Maunakea Management had put together, presentations, resources, archived materials. There was a wealth of knowledge and information that was already collected. So building off of that, we have created a new orientation video that's 25 minutes in length, specifically targeted for the Mauna Kea user group. So those that are the tour operators, Mauna Kea university staff, faculty, Mauna Kea observatory staff, faculty, or staff, collaborators, affiliates, contractors, etc. The video is meant to orient them to Mauna Kea. from cultural significance through to management, jurisdictions, health and safety, etc. We are also working on a 5 to 7 minute version of that production to be used specifically for more of the general public visitor that travels up to the summit to orient them to Mauna Kea. Additionally, we are putting together an interactive map that will be web-based, where people who are required to complete the orientation process, as well as the general public, could have a comprehensive online resource that dives even deeper and further into the content that was put together in the orientation video. So again, all of those facets of, cultural and historical and heritage significance of Mauna Kea through to environmental awareness, understanding, and efforts going on the mountain, to management, to the observatories. It's just trying to be a nice repository for a more comprehensive experience that people can self-guide through at their own pace to learn more about Mauna Kea. We also hope to have that available as an exhibit both at the Viz and at Inuwa. And to backtrack, similar to the orientation video, it is web-based, but also have it available for exhibit display at the Viz and at Inuwa. In addition to those two components, we are preparing to relaunch live presentations to the Mauna Kea user groups that's required to go through training, and are preparing to have that presentation available on demand when needed. And for the Mauna Kea user group, they are required to have an assessment to verify and confirm that they've been through the process or the orientation program, and are aware of the significant information that they need to know as they go to the mid-level or the summit for their business. So as it relates to the video, we contracted with a community partner, OEVTV, to help us produce the video. So here are just some shots. They traveled throughout the island, interviewed a swath of different people who have connection to Mauna Kea, whether lineally, culturally, or through their work professionally, to speak about the different aspects that are important to the orientation and education process. They visited many different places, as well, besides interviewing a variety of people. Here are some of the faces that participated in this orientation, and our main goal was to get a diverse range of voices, again, with different types of connection to Mauna Kea, to tell the different stories that we think are important for all going to the Mauna to hear from and to learn from. Of course, there are many, many more voices out there, but we couldn't capture it all in a 25-minute video. So these are some of the community practitioners and experts that we did call upon to help us tell these stories. I have a short 2-minute segment that I'll share with you to spare you from the full 25-minute version, but we are finalizing that, and that link will be made available to all of you.
Kayu, there's no sound.
Oh, but you can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it is? Hold on, I'm so sorry. I'll turn on
My earbuds. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear the video?
On an island in one of the most remote archipelagos on the planet, Mauna Kea is known to millions around the world. Peaking at over 32,000 feet above the ocean floor, this majestic Mauna is the tallest sea mountain on Earth. This isolated summit that rises well above city lights and even above the clouds sits in a crisp, dry atmosphere, creating a unique environment for observing the stars, and as a result, has become host to the world's largest collection of observatories advancing significant discoveries in the study of the universe. What this Mauna embodies and has come to symbolize is grounded first and foremost in its familial and spiritual significance for us as Native Hawaiians.
Maunakea is our oldest kupuna, Wakea, the god of the sky, and his mate, Papa, or Papa Hanaumoku, the earth. They created our landscapes, and our old chant specifically says, Hanau ka mauna he makahiapo kapuna kea. Born is the mountain, and it's the oldest child of Wakea. We're taught that to every place there's a reason and a purpose, and everything belongs in its place. We have what we call wau, and so there are realms, and we have wauakua, things that belong to the akua there. You have wau nahele, where things that are in nahele, or things that are in the forest belongs there. And all the way down to you have wau kanaka, where the people belong. And so these realms are like boundary lines for us. You know, as Kanaka, we wouldn't be able to survive in the wauakua. We can maybe visit the summits, but we can't live there. Our bodies are not physically capable to live in that kind of element, in that high elevation. And so it's letting us know that that's not our place. I think the message really is to travel with ho'ihi and have respect when you do things, and to know that that place is somebody's place. And if it's not your place, then at least be respectful when you enter into those areas.
So just a little sneak peek. We've also, Imiloa has also contributed content and some new exhibits to the Viz. So starting on the left, we created a display on ads in Keanakakoi, located on Mauna Kea. We have also contributed what we call people journals. Basically, they are a collection of quotes taken from mele or chants and stories, as well as journals that record different explorers' impressions as they traveled up to Mauna Kea. And we've also, working with UH Hilo's computer science department, as well as UH Manoa's Lava Lab, have created a prototype of an augmented reality exhibit that you see here on the far right. So we've prototyped it at Imiloa to get visitor feedback, but it basically uses GIS data to tell different stories about Hawaii Island, and in particular Mauna Kea, from water to geology to land designation, in terms of whose kuleana is at what parts of Mauna Kea, and even extending on throughout the Hawaii Island as a whole. So it's been popularly received by the visitors to Imiloa, and so we look forward to installing a revised version up at the Viz as well. But again, all in an effort to enhance the educational experience up at the mid-level facility. And I think this is my last slide. I added this in. It has nothing to do really with the CMP or the master plan, or but it is, I think, reflective, and I wanted to bring it to people's attention that I think we are in a time in history where there is a lot more awareness of and concern for the need to partner with Indigenous communities and people of place as it relates to science, to research, and even to land management. And so I bring up these two examples, the Astro 2020 Decadal Survey, which for the first time, I think in the history of modern astronomy, or of the Decadal Survey, calls out the need for meaningful partnerships, for culturally supported pathways for inclusion, for sustainability, preservation, and restoration of sites where astronomy is done, it specifically calls out the need for this kind of partnerships on Mauna Kea. And also the White House, in addition to the Decadal Survey, another example where this elevation of awareness is also being evidenced is a recent press release that has come out of the White House that is going to focus this calendar year on putting together a group for the Office of Science and Technology policy, specifically for the purpose of elevating Indigenous knowledge in federal policy, right, as it relates to science and technology. So I think this is really important, especially for the University of Hawaii, who is an Indigenous serving institution, to really lean in on this elevated awareness and efforts to be more inclusive in meaningful ways, right? And to elevate the status and engagement of Indigenous communities throughout the nation, but particularly for us here in Hawaii. And so I wanted to just remind people, right, like that beyond Hawaii, there are greater effort, or there are other efforts moving forward to make sure of the inclusion of Indigenous communities. And Imiloa has been advocating for more Indigenous inclusion as it relates to science partnerships, as it relates to science education. And here are just two examples of articles that were published, co-authored with Imiloa, that are seeking to advance Indigenous knowledge in astronomy, specifically on the publication on the left, which is an international planetarian publication. And on the right, it's looking at how we create more space and opportunity for collaboration with integrity between Indigenous communities and scientific communities. So Imiloa has been executing and implementing our educational mission here locally, but we've also been advocating beyond Hawaii for more of this kind of effort and inclusion in places elsewhere as well. So I think that is maybe this is my last slide, I'm sorry. This is a New York Times publication that just came out November 2021, and it is announcing that a discovery made, oh gosh, years ago, I can't tell you what year this discovery was made, but basically an object was found orbiting our sun that's kind of pacing with the orbit of our Earth. And back in 2017, it was believed, I guess, to be an asteroid. And in 2017, we had Hawaiian-speaking high school students study this object, and they created a name, Komo'oalewa, as you see here in the article, which inferred in the name is that it is this object is an offspring that is now orbiting. It's an offspring of something that is now orbiting. It's not just sort of this random rock, if you will, that is in our orbit. But that was back in 2017 that the name was published and subsequently approved by the International Astronomical Society. So it is formally and officially recognized as Komo'oalewa. But in the fall of 2021, news started to break in the scientific community that scientists are now believing that this object is actually an offspring, if you will, of our moon. So I thought it was neat to share that you know, our students are helping to, whether they knew it or not, right? They're helping to inform science from a very unique Hawaiian perspective through our language. So I'll end there on that and invite any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ku'u. Any questions?
That's great. I have a question. So Ka'iu, how different is the video from, you know, weren't all these contractors and everybody being put through training prior? So how different is it? And did you start from scratch and, you know, to put this new video together?
Content-wise, we used a lot of what had already been put together by Fritz and Wally and Joy and others. And then, you know, we built upon that content and we produced from scratch a video. And I think I really felt it was important to gather community members who are experts in those various content fields, if you will, to help tell the story of those important pieces of information that people need to know, anybody really going up to Mauna Kea. So the production itself was from scratch, but the information was built upon from what had previously been gathered by the office.
Could you share a little bit about some of the topics that are covered in the new video? Because it is quite extensive, actually.
Yeah, and I think maybe what makes it a little bit different from so there is a presentation that is still currently available online, and it's a presentation that takes you through a PowerPoint of the different places. So there's a little bit of a difference there with the production of this video, especially garnering mana'o from community experts and practitioners. The content covered is cultural history and significance of Mauna Kea, the uniqueness of the natural environment surrounding, I guess, the Mauna Kea slopes as well as at the summit. Some of the conservation efforts that are going on to restore the native natural environment and native species on Mauna Kea. Below, below the mid-level facilities on up to the summit. We talk about the geological composition of Mauna Kea, some of the faculty from UH Hilo Anthropology department to help us, anthropology, help us tell that story. Lake Wai'au and the uniqueness of Lake Wai'au from both cultural, connection and perspective to its geological or its natural composition and origin. We talk about astronomy and the different types of observatories at the summit, how they work together, and really, in addition to the who and the how, it's sort of the inspiration of some of the astronomers involved in research on Mauna Kea as to the why. Their work on Mauna Kea is so unique and inspiring and important. We speak to people who have helped give context to the kinds of lands that Mauna Kea is legally designated as, from ceded lands through to what that means, as well as the current management structure and collaborations that happen between DLNR, UH, MKOs. We also feature the other types of land managers, if you will, on Mauna Kea, from DHHL to private, just to give people an understanding that there are different players, if you will, involved in stewarding different regions of Mauna Kea. We also talk about sort of the significance of and the movement that we are experiencing, more so in particular in today's time, that has drawn literally thousands of people to have concern for Mauna Kea and Mauna Kea's stewardship. So the social movement that has been enacted as a result for greater concern and interest in Mauna Kea's protection. And the educational efforts that are at play, through IFA and their research, as well as through Imiloa and the things that we do. So have I missed anything, Greg, in terms of the major content areas talked about in the video?
Yeah, no, I think it covers it. I know it's a lot.
Yeah. And like I said, that's why we thought of doing the interactive interactive map that's web-based, so that people can take time on their own to further dive into these different aspects and features of Mauna Kea stewardship.
Andy, you have a question?
Yeah, Kalia, this is really good. Could you just say a little bit about the 7-minute version that you have managed to condense, what the focus of that is, and how you expect people to get it? This is for people actually visiting the mountain, correct? Is that right?
It's more for the general public, just thinking about the attention span that people have to watch something that's gonna, share and educate them about the significance of Mauna Kea. It's a challenge because there's so much to share. And again, that's why that interactive map is being created to allow people to further explore on their own. But the 5 to 7 minute version will basically feature, right, the cultural history and significance of Mauna Kea, the environmental uniqueness of Mauna Kea, and the efforts to restore natural native environments. It will speak to astronomy being done on Mauna Kea. It will speak to the health and safety. Sorry, I didn't mention that. The 25 minute also does that, but speaks to the health and safety, important health and safety guidelines requisite to, to know when traveling to the summit. And it'll give a really brief overview, right, of the responsibility of the university in terms of stewardship, but it won't dive as deep into that aspect as the 25-minute video does. Any further questions? I'm still the only one in the room. I just have people outside my house talking.
Billy has a question.
Yes, I was kind of warmed with enthusiasm when it illustrated the Mo'oleva. It was, a component of a larger body that kicked off and became a component of its own. Remember, before we used to talk about Ili Ili Hanau. It's almost like a minor version of the same thing. But I enjoyed your program. Got you. Very good job.
Mahalo nui.
Bless you. I feel so lonesome for your grandma Tita. Inamina. Thank you.
Full disclosure, there's a lot of B-roll video taken from the Waimea view of Mauna Kea.
I think it's a good step, Caillou, that you're using local people in the videos and local faces because, right, anything, we're probably, 20 years from when that original video was made, maybe 15, but so much has happened within that period of time. And I think our, MCAMB members are very sensitive to outreach, community outreach, and kind of being more inclusive. And I think the first way you start is by making people feel comfortable. And when you have people you recognize in a video about a special place, it makes it that much more meaningful. I mean, a way to connect quickly and not feel, that you're a foreigner watching something. So, that was, I think, really good aspect that you're adding into the material.
Well, mahalo. Yeah, we felt that it was really important. I mean, they're the people hands-on, doing the work and engaged at many levels. And so to hear directly from them about these different important dimensions of Mauna Kea, I think was the best way to tell those stories. And, in all honesty, some of them were really challenged to say yes to the request to participate in the orientation video. But I think at the end of the day, everybody who did participate in it really felt that it's important that these stories and these bits of knowledge and information be known to any and all who travel to Mauna Kea. And so for that purpose, they all agreed to help tell those important bits of information, which we're super, super thankful for.
I have a feeling, members of this board are going to be interested in having, more conversations with you because as we all reflect on, I think the most recent being the Kuivalu report, I mean, where the university has not done a good job has really been in the area of outreach, and specifically to the Hawaiian community, and how we try to be as best we can be inclusive. I think is going to be really important. So yeah, we were really curious as to what you were doing, and I think I can say for myself, I think there's a willingness for members to get involved in constructive ways. So keep that in mind. I mean, the reality is, we are all volunteers, and so I kind of reflect back on Hank Ferguson's comment about you guys and we're doing whatever, but the reality is, we're all volunteers, and no, we don't spend our whole day on Maunakea Management Board issues. So I think even that perspective is not correct. And it's really about educating, right? So at all levels. I mean, I think it happens at all levels.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for Imilwa, like I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, really based on community input to that master plan draft of 2000 or master plan of 2000, the desire or the request for a place like Imilwa to be created came forth, right? So from the beginning of Imilwa, and it was challenging as well, and it continues to be challenging, but ensuring that we maintain that community input and partnerships to keep Imilwa serving its purpose and mission is critical. So when given the responsibility to do this orientation and help build out further educational programs, we're going to proceed forward with that same mentality, that's what will make it more successful in terms of spreading increasing and deepening our partnerships with community.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions for you, Diana?
Just want to say thank you. It was very enjoyable and very informative, and I'm looking forward to trying to look at it online.
Ikino, we'll make sure you all get the link. Mahalo.
But we haven't told the board yet that they're all going to be required to do this every orientation every year themselves.
Uh-oh.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna ask everybody else to do it, we need to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Mahalo nui.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Haoli makahiki ho.
Ai, haoli makahiki ho.
So there's one other piece to this particular agenda item, Chair, that I wanted to go over, and it's kind of again to prepare for our next meeting when we start to get into the comprehensive management plan in more detail. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is some material that we sent out earlier today, prepared by PSI, our planning consultants who are helping us with the master plan and CMP update. As you may recall, at our last meeting, they reviewed a similar set of matrices that they have prepared for our advisory groups and actually our CMS staff as well, as part of our review and updating of the management actions themselves. At that meeting, you all suggested that where you wanted to start was to first start start our review by first looking at the management actions related to education and outreach. So what PSI, Jim Hayes and his team have done is created a similar matrix outlining the education or the management actions related to education and outreach that are articulated in the 2009 CMP. So similar to what they reviewed previously, each management action is identified. And what you see here in this second column is the description of the management action as it's described in the current CMP. For reference, you can go to this section of the OAR to find out what the outcome analysis report said and concluded about this particular management action. And then based on preliminary internal conversations and discussions amongst the planning team and with the planning team and CMS staff, the last column outlines a draft of an updated description of what the management plan, what the management action might look like going forward, how we might want to change it, and some points of adaptation, specifically what we're thinking about adapting in the modifications being proposed. So this matrix goes through all of the what we call EO management actions, education and outreach actions. You see here's one around program development. There's the education, which has several, outreach, which has several as well, a couple as well. So we are not going to review this here tonight. I just wanted to introduce this as a tool for your use as we prepare for our next set of meetings to discuss the EO management actions in the CMP. We thought that this tool has proven to be very useful for us, for the staff. And as we've used it with the Environment Committee and the Kahukumona, it was also very useful in guiding our conversations with them. So just wanted to introduce this at this point, get any feedback on the tool itself, any questions you may have, but we're providing it to you early enough so that you can begin to think about some of these management actions and changes we might want to make and consider, as well as reviewing sections of the outcome analysis report that might be helpful for you. Any questions?
I haven't had a chance to go through
Sure.
this. I saw it, but I
Yeah.
wanted to get through your working group summary letter and the attachments, so I didn't get to this today.
Yep. Understandable. It's understandable.
But it's where we wanted to start, so
Yeah.
I think it's in bullet form will highlight what we need to focus on. So
Right.
yeah, thank you.
And then just want to reemphasize one point that I said earlier, and Kayu pointed out in her comments as well, her presentation. The way I view our responsibilities, meaning the university's responsibilities when it comes to education and outreach. There are some specific things that Imiloa has been tasked with at the direction of the regents. But education and outreach is really a responsibility of IFA, Imiloa, CMS, as well as the Mauna Kea observatories. There are a number of existing programs and initiatives already in place that we want to improve on. And our governance structure and activities, the action this board took to recommend restructuring Maunakea Management Board is actually a part of the outreach strategy that we need to work on and improve on. So there are a number of different aspects and a number of us who are responsible for different parts of education and outreach. I don't want it to seem like it's all Imiloa or all just sort of a small group of outreach folks or folks working on educational programming. And that's just a philosophy and something I've been trying to make sure we all understand as a management collaboration. That's one of those management responsibilities that cuts across everyone's, including with the MKOs, because we do share interests as well as resources on a number of those efforts.
So is there a specific, I mean, you know, as we all go through that section, do you want us to do anything, i.e., you know, let you know what we think, you know, prioritize some of it, or?
I think prioritizing would be good. Enhancements to the management actions themselves. How can we be clearer? How can we be more targeted, perhaps in some cases? Ideas you may have that might improve an action item in terms of our effectiveness. One thing not covered in the table, but it is part of the update, is we would like to include in each of these management action sections a section on metrics. How do we know we're being effective in achieving our desired outcome as stated in the CMP? So each of those sets of management actions, so like for the EO management actions, collectively there's a, in the existing CMP, there's a desired outcome, what we're trying to achieve. And we're trying to be more specific and develop metrics that can help us measure or assess more regularly and better how effective we are in achieving those outcomes. So that would be a particular area that would be very helpful to us.
Do we want this to be our next item to focus on at our next special meeting?
Yeah.
And which will give everybody, you know, 2 weeks to kind of go through the matrix, come up with what we perceive would be priority, give, and be ready to give you, if we can't give it to you prior to the meeting, our thoughts and, you know, as far as, like you said, you know, is there something else we can do? You know, what possible metrics could we look at?
Right. Yeah, that was the whole idea of having Kaiu do her presentation and us presenting this matrix tonight, is to give you all ample time to sort of think about it and do whatever homework you might want to do prior to our next special meeting. I was going to recommend we take this up at our next special meeting.
Okay. Because maybe Kaiu, if you're available, wait, today's the 4th, so it's 2 weeks from now, so the 18th. So we meet Tuesdays at 5. So it'd be 5 to 7, where, you know, we in the special meeting, we kind of focus in on, you know, what would be helpful to CMS. You know, we talked about the draft master plan in one meeting. You know, we talked about restructuring in the, you know, prior meeting. So we use a special meeting to allow members time to, you know, discuss information that has been circulated, where, you know, maybe we can add perspective and provide input that could be helpful to, you know, CMS and the university. Yeah.
So Kaiu, we'll make sure we get you that information, the link for that meeting.
Okay, what date was that again?
Tuesday, today's the 4th, so at
The 18th. It's 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay. Hikino, mahalo.
At 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks good.
So okay, so the draft master plan is so you gotta correct me with the dates. So the draft master plan is at a point where we have approved it, right? We've recommended it to the Board of Regents. So we want to be able to do the same thing with this comprehensive management plan. What is the timeline on that document? Next meeting?
No. We have to, we started reviewing the CMP with the Environment Committee and Kahukumona already. And we'll start, well, we've started tonight with all of us. What final recommendation of approval, if you will, is probably not until March. What we will want to do is circulate a draft internally prior to us going out for public comment, much like we did with the master plan. So sometime at the end of February or so, we hope to have a draft that we can circulate internally. Then we'll go out for public comment, and then we'll bring it back to this board for your recommendation, probably sometime in April, middle of April, something like that.
Okay. But I like the way you're approaching, having the Environment Committee deal with certain sections, Kahukumona deal with their sections. We're going to tackle the education and outreach piece. And then as it all comes together, it'll be a better way of kind of incorporating as much feedback as possible.
Yeah. Definitely.
Andy, yes.
Can I ask a question about this? There's EO1 to EO8.
Mm-hmm.
Should we restrict our thinking to that? Or, I mean, some things have changed since 2009, so we're grounding this in the earlier plan. If you wanted to come up with something out of the blue, for example, I think of the wider internet community that is now much more relevant than it was then. Are you able to add new management actions?
We certainly are able to add new management actions. We would want to be judicious in how many we add, because we've got 103 already. But
maybe we can amend one of them, an existing one.
but you raise an interesting point, and you'll see it reflected in. Let me pull up the matrix again. I forgot to point this out. The education and outreach management actions, there is actually some duplication in other parts of the CMP where there are other management actions related to outreach management actions. So for example, EO7 and EO8 do have overlap with CR1, NR1, P5, OI3. So what we're doing is that we're calling this an outreach cluster. And what we're wanting to do is for a variety of reasons, rather than just combine them all, but talk about them all together, so that remember that this plan is kind of CMS's Bible, right? This is one of the guiding documents that we rely on. And so we want the plan to be easier for our staff to refer to, and quite frankly, anyone to refer to. So it would be good to look at some of these other actions, management actions in other parts of the CMP, which CMS has indicated here. Or even look at how in what EO6 might overlap with EO2. and give us some ideas on sort of how we would address that cluster, if you will. How would we improve or focus the actual management action that we're intending to implement, that we're talking about here? I'm glad you brought that. I asked that, Andy, because I forgot to point that out.
So Greg, I think you need to send, the EO items, but in connection with what you just discussed, can we have, the entire list so that we can refer back to what was CR1?
Yeah, let me get with PSI and talk with them about that, because one of the challenges we've had is that just preparing these matrices is resource intensive, and it takes time away from us actually working on the plan, the update to the plan. But we wanted to do them at least for the EO section and the CR section and the NR section. But let me talk to them and see if there's some simpler ways that we can reference tools that we can provide to you folks.
Because your second bullet actually makes sense. Divide the outreach cluster. So I'm assuming it's, the item above, EO6, CR1, NR1, P5, OT3.
Right.
Take that cluster and divide it into, an overview. Is there a community opportunity piece? I mean, that makes sense to me, some of this stuff that you're saying.
Yeah.
And if there's a way for our group to, efficiently do that, that would be helpful. Because it seems a little disjointed right now, unless we read everything.
The information is all over the place. It's in different places in the existing CMP. So that's what makes it difficult. But let me talk to them and see what we.
If you can organize, I think the feedback will be more meaningful and probably more effective.
Okay. Does that help, Andy? Oh.
I guess my overall concern was that if we only look at what's there and modify that, we may miss something that's completely alternative.
Sure.
I think you should bring your ideas to the meeting, Andy.
Yeah.
Nothing's stupid. Nothing's sacred. I mean, that's my feeling.
Any other questions on this agenda item?
I don't see any more questions.
No, I just concur with having to reorganize work on organizing the structure of the previous document.
Okay, it's 6:41. Is there, sorry, yeah, 6:41. Anybody, was there anything else we needed to cover? I'm not sure if anybody feels we need to have an executive session. I think it'll be helpful if everybody, can spend some time on the matrix and that Greg had sent out and, give some thought so that we can reconvene in a special meeting on the 18th to give feedback. Anybody have any other comments? If Diana, you have a comment?
Nope,
No.
nope. Everything's been covered very well, and I appreciate the organization. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, all right. The next announcements, next meeting will be on February 1st at 5 o'clock. And we will, because of the suspension, we will not need to have a physical location at one of the, for an in-person meeting. I'm thinking, or I don't know, Greg, were you thinking it would be at IFA?
Yeah, once that kicks into play again, we'll probably do it at IFA. And
okay.
So that could be a place where the public could come. And, Carrie and I could make sure that, we're there to sort of organize that part.
All right. So the next special meeting then is Tuesday, February 18th at 5 o'clock. I have no other announcements. Anybody else? Greg or Bonnie?
February 18th.
January.
January 18th.
I'm
That's
sorry,
what I thought.
January 18th.
Oh, January.
January 18th.
January 18th, special meeting, comprehensive management plan, EO actions.
Thank you for that.
And then the next public meeting of MKMB will be on February 1st.
That's right.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. All right. It is now 6:44. Happy New Year's to everyone, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Happy New
I
Year.
adjourn the meeting.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you all.